Good evening and welcome to Ready, Set, Grow. How many of you felt like you had some growth today with our sessions? Yeah, great. Our team does a fantastic job. I just want to welcome you all tonight and this weekend to the Mennonite Disaster Service 2024 Annual Celebration. It's so good to see you all here in California and in Region 4. I'm Michelle White Eagle, the Region 4 Board Chair, for those of you who do not know me yet. And so thank you for being here, and I welcome all those who are tuning in via live stream. So tonight, we're going to take time to celebrate the work of amazing MDS volunteers who give of their time and talent to help bring disaster survivors back home. In fact, this last year, our volunteers helped more than 800 households recover after disasters. Praise be to God, right? Amen. Now, throughout this evening and this weekend, you'll hear from some of our survivors as they talk about their appreciation for and the relationships with MDS volunteers. Our volunteers who selflessly step forward to respond, rebuild, and restore in the wake of disaster. We also want to celebrate the partnerships that we have developed with other agencies, with the long-term recovery committees in the communities in which we serve, and the generous donors who help equip and empower our volunteers to fulfill the mission. I want to take a moment to say volunteers change lives. There are multiple people in this room who I can credit with changing my life. And those are the volunteers who came to me and said, would you like to serve with MDS? After I met them as a long-term recovery case manager in my community after wildfire in 2015. I never envisioned that first meeting point would culminate into me welcoming you all here tonight. We're grateful for the folks involved with the planning and the putting on of this event. We're especially grateful to those here from the California unit who worked so hard to produce all of this for you, to host you and to help you feel at home. So thank you to the California unit. The California unit is led by Jim Holm, and he's fairly new to MDS. He became the California chair in April of 2022, and he jumped in with both feet. It was almost immediate that I said, Jim, would you like to host the annual celebration? Mind you, he hadn't had any exposure to MDS, our volunteers, or our projects. He is a trooper. Jim is a native of Minnesota, and he grew up in Montana. He holds a degree in political science from Fresno Pacific University down the street. He has a master's of divinity from Mennonite Brethren Biblical Seminary and a doctor of ministry from Fuller Seminary. Jim has recently retired as the pastor here at Butler Mennonite Brethren Church in Fresno. I am honored to call Jim a friend and to serve with him here in Region 4. So tonight, Jim is going to share insights into our theme, Ready, Set, Grow. Jim?
It was 1:30 in the morning, Monday, January 9, 2023, the last night of Christmas vacation. When the kids got up the next morning, they'd all have to go back to school, and life would settle into, well, what you might call routine. And like most of the people in their community, the members of the Trujillo family were in bed too, asleep. Mr. and Mrs. Trujillo and their 3 children were ready for the next day, whatever it would bring. Around 1:30 in the morning, Mrs. Trujillo woke up, and she got out of bed. I don't know whether she heard a noise or whether there was something else that caused her to interrupt her sleep, but she got out of bed. And as she got out of bed and stepped out on the floor, she was standing in water. Now, any of you who have had that experience know that it's not something you really look forward to. Now, the water wasn't that deep, just barely covering the bottom of her foot, but she thought she'd better go and investigate, so she headed off toward the kitchen. Maybe somebody had left a tap on and the water was running over, a toilet was overflowing, or a pipe had broken. Here in California, the winters aren't that cold, but still, it's cold enough sometimes for the pipes to break. So she headed off for the kitchen. By the time she got there, the water was over the top of her feet. And she decided that she better go back and wake her husband and wonder what they should do. And by the time she got back to the bedroom, the water was up to her ankles. They realized they had to leave in a hurry. So she woke her husband, they woke the children, they got a few clothes and shoes together. Remember, it was January. And they prepared to leave the house. And by this time, the water was coming up, approaching their knees. And as they opened the front door, they were met by a flood of water that came pouring through the house. Out in the yard, they had a four-wheel drive pickup truck. And they hoped if they could make it to that truck, they would be able to drive it in four-wheel drive and maybe get out of there and get to higher ground. And so, sort of swimming through their own yard, they headed toward the truck. Suddenly, they heard the voices of their neighbors who were saying they were trapped too. Their house too was full of water. And so the Trujillos took their neighbors, loaded them along with their family into the truck, and they drove out of the water to higher ground. Now, they didn't know it at the time, but later on they realized that because of California's torrential rain, which is unusual for our drought-stricken state, because of the torrential rain, called an atmospheric river, a term we'd never heard of before, a levee near their town had broken. And during that night, 90% of the town had been put underwater, including their home. Now, they lived in the town of Planada, California, a place that is just 50 miles from where you are sitting tonight. And they and their neighbors found their houses filled with water. Later on, as the levee was repaired, the water receded, the houses dried up, well, at least the parts that you could see. But the drywall remained wet, the insulation remained ruined, the electrical outlets were full of water, the kitchen cabinets had been damaged beyond repair. But Planada was primarily a farm labor community. People without a lot of resources. And so when the water left the house, where would they go? So they moved back in. And the Trujillos did as well. Here in California, we grow a lot of things, a lot of big things. Now, I know you grow stuff where you live too, and it's probably really big and really great. But here in California, we grow a lot of trees. In fact, you're here at a very good time of year. This is springtime in California. And as you drive through our countryside, you will see tens of thousands of fruit trees that are in bloom. Pink blossoms, white blossoms, peaches and nectarines and plums of every color and variety and shape and size. This is a land where we grow trees. But not only fruit trees like these, we also have nuts in California. I have to say, people like you always have that kind of reaction. I'm talking about nut trees, folks. We have nut trees in this state. Pistachios and almonds by the hundreds of thousands that are harvested from our trees and go into your granola. The Bible talks about trees too. In the prophet Isaiah, chapter 61, which is our theme text for these days, the prophet Isaiah talks about trees. In Isaiah 61, he says that there is a Messiah coming, a ruler coming, a chosen one who's coming. And that one, he says, is going to bring good news. In fact, this is how the prophet puts it. I forgot a bunch of my slides because I'm so nervous in front of you. Let me back up. I was going to say, not only do we grow deciduous fruit like peaches and nectarines and plums, but we grow grapefruit and oranges. You've had some of those wonderful oranges here. And of course, not only do we grow nut trees, we grow these wonderful, glorious palm trees that sway in the breeze. And if you haven't seen them yet, just stand out in the parking lot for a while tomorrow and you will. And then, not too far from here, are the oldest trees in the world, the bristlecone pine trees, 5,000 years old. In fact, this tree you're looking at here is so old, it has a name. It's called Methuselah. When the pyramids of Egypt were built, this tree was already an old man of 500 years. And then, of course, in California, we have those trees that are nowhere else in the world. Those absolutely spectacular giant sequoia redwood trees that are on your tote bag, on your program. In California, we grow things. Well, as I was saying, the prophet Isaiah talks about trees. And he talks about this anointed one who will come and who will liberate the world and who will bring, well, this is what he says. He will bring good news to the poor. He will bind up the brokenhearted. He will proclaim liberty to those who are bound. And he will announce the time of God's favor, that the time of God's favor has come. And then he goes on to say this. They will be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that the Lord may be glorified. God, in his wisdom, has chosen people to be trees of righteousness who will be planted by God in various places to serve our Lord and to do what the Heavenly Father calls them to do. And then, in the next part of this passage, the prophet, now remember, he wrote this 700 years before Jesus was born. In this part of the passage, the prophet gives the mission statement of Mennonite Disaster Service. They shall build up the ruins. They shall raise up the former devastation. They shall repair the ruined cities. They shall come to you as the minister of our God, and there will be everlasting joy. That's what MDS does. And that's why our theme is Ready, Set, Grow, because these trees that God is building all through California and elsewhere where you live are growing. And they're growing because God grows things. And MDS has the privilege of being a partner with God in what God is doing, to build relationships, to build people, to build connections, to build houses, to build hope. That's what happens. Now you're wondering about the Trujillo family. So I want you to see their story.
The water surrounded the house from everywhere. When it started, we noticed it from this side. When I went outside, the other side was flooded. The water surrounded the house, under the house, and came out from everywhere. Before we realized it, the yard was full and the water was coming through the doors. We were waiting to see what else would happen.
We grabbed like the most important things and then we started like hanging outside, and like outside the house like the water was like already up to like your knees, and we just left in a hurry because we were gonna go towards one side, Lanada, but we realized that on that side the water was too high for the truck, so it was starting to like not go inside, but it was starting to affect the wheels from the truck, so we had to take another way out of Planada so we weren't where there was like no water or anything.
So as long as we were leaving, we heard the neighbors called us that they needed help too. Inside the truck, it's only for 6 people. That included me in the back because we also took other people, 12 in total.
So the process for choosing this family was fairly easy. The family has been nothing but grateful even before we known about the Mennonites. Happy, joyful, regardless of the situation. They've always kept a smile, very thankful, and we're just blessed that we were able to connect you to an amazing organization like yours.
I think the Lord put it on my heart when Pastor Jim asked me about it. Voluntary, and I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to. I just wanted to see what it was like and stuff, and I ended up working, and I liked it.
We did have a mold issue, and that's why we had to tear down these walls.
We did some electrical, and we helped out with whatever was necessary.
Toda esta piedra es nueva.
All this counter is new. These cabinets, everything down here is new. All of these too, and this side up to here. Also the walls, all three of them. They repaired them.
Tres las repararon.
But it was really good fellowship. I remember it was just everybody getting along, everybody helping each other out. Meaningful. I felt happy and felt like I did something. And now I can't wait till the spring when we get to go back and do some more work.
Nada más por darle las gracias a todos los que nos ayudaron.
I cannot say enough to thank everyone who helped us. We think that God put these people in our path. Thanks to God and to those who brought them here. We did not know who was going to come to our house. Thank you to Rebecca, who spoke up for us and brought others to help. With everyone's help, now we are back home.
De ellos también ya estamos aquí de vuelta.
I was going to tell you what MDS did, but you know. Repaired or replaced drywall, insulation, flooring, baseboard, kitchen cabinets, electrical outlets for the Trujillo family. That's ready, set, grow. That's what God is calling us to do as trees of righteousness, a planting of the Lord, to carry out his will, to restore that which is devastated, to repair that which is broken, to build that which has been torn down. Tonight, it is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome here and introduce to you Luis Sr., Santana, Myra, Luis Jr., and Javier Trujillo. Will you join me in welcoming them to our midst tonight? Gracias. Thank you to all of you. May God bless.
Thank you, Jim, for your inspiring words. Thank you to the Trujillo family for being with us. We're so honored to have you amongst us. There's another person I want to make sure that I highlight and thank tonight, and that is Shirley Home. That's Jim's wife, his partner. She has been tremendous in the planning of our annual celebration, providing and organizing all the meals. So can we give her a hand as well, please? Now, we often say that MDS is about relationships. It's relationships with volunteers. It's relationships with homeowners. It's relationships with the communities that we work in. And it's relationships with our partner agencies and so many others. Often these relationships grow into treasured, lifelong friendships. Tonight, our MDS Readers Theater team brings us a presentation that highlights the work of our volunteers and the many relationships that develop. Our Readers Theater team is made up of staff members Alicia Hurst, Rebecca White, Brad Fair, Josh Carson, and Matt Troyer Miller. It was created by Communications Manager Jess Huxman with creative inspiration from Jeff Rott. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the MDS Readers Theater.
For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me into your home.
I needed a roof. You built one to keep me dry.
I had nowhere to turn, but you rebuilt my house. The rains washed away our roads, but you built a bridge and gave me a way back.
You left your home and came to help me.
I felt forgotten. You came to help me. You came to help us.
From homelessness.
From helplessness.
From hopelessness.
Perfect strangers came to help us.
Disasters often divide us. One group is left in need. One group lends a hand. All strangers. One calling out, one hearing a call.
I don't think people realize the potential of what they can do. Volunteering with MDS gave my life purpose.
It pushed me out of my comfort zone in the very best possible way.
Homeowners are devastated by the storm. They can't believe that people are willing to help. As volunteers and as strangers.
Our faith calls us to help our neighbors.
To respond.
To rebuild. To restore.
You came as strangers, offering repairs.
Offering support. Offering hope.
It's like we were able to give them a big hug when they needed it most.
These volunteers planted seeds in my family that will change the course of our future.
MDS volunteers bring answers to the prayers of homeowners, bringing light during the darkest times, commitment and dedication day after day. They bring gifts, wall hangings, cutting boards, prayer shawls, alongside a listening, caring spirit.
You can see it in their eyes, such gratitude. They can't believe we are rebuilding their house.
I'm not gonna lie, when you volunteer with MDS, you're gonna work hard. But the blessing you receive is worth all the blisters.
My first day, I helped muck out a basement. Oh, the smell. I was so tired, I nearly fell asleep at supper. But that sweet satisfaction of doing something good just warmed my soul.
My favorite part of MDS trips? Listening to homeowners tell their stories.
That storm destroyed our home. And it destroyed a part of me too. That was our first home together. When we rushed out the back door, the water was past my knees.
That storm did a number on us. But me and that tornado, we made our peace. In the car that night, someone had a hand on me. There was no doubt.
Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.
I've been blessed. That could have just as easily have been me or my family. Jesus would help. I should too.
MDS didn't just clean out and repair my home. They gave me hope when all hope was lost.
Every story is different. Every story pulls on your heartstrings.
So we listen with love.
We started as strangers, but soon became friends.
And now, you're family. We're family.
Hear that?
The familiar sound of an MDS hammer.
That's the sound of faith in action.
That's the sound of hope.
The sound of hope. Amen.
Wow, I heard about that, but that was great. Exceeded my expectations. Right now, I would like to invite Ross Penner up, the Executive Director of MDS Canada.
I was reassured to hear from Jim that California has nuts. That's probably why us Canadians feel so welcome here. This afternoon during our regional time, we got a van and I loaded all the Canadians in there and told them I'm taking them to the nut farm, that I needed money for a trailer and I would be getting a good price. Greetings from your partners in MDS Canada. It is good to be among you and celebrate God's work through the many stakeholders that make up MDS. I'm in my 9th year with MDS Canada. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. And I would never have imagined the changes and growth that have happened in our country during that time. The driving force behind that change is the immense increase in large-scale disasters in Canada. Canada doesn't have a long history of multiple or regular disaster response opportunities within our borders in the same way that the U.S. does. But this is quickly changing. That change is propelled by changes within government, is propelling changes within government and within many disaster response agencies in Canada. The Canadian Red Cross, the largest disaster response agency in Canada by far, recently hosted a conference in Ottawa, our national capital, in which we were presented with the realities of the growing frequency and severity of disasters within our border. It is sobering. The executive director of the Canadian Red Cross indicated to us that when he began 15 years ago, over 80% of the Canadian Red Cross's work focused on international relief work out of the country. Now, 15 years later, over 80% of the Red Cross's work focuses within the border of Canada. That is just a massive shift. The increase is in keeping with the growth of MDS responses in Canada in these last years. As we learn to respond to that growth, we are learning that we need to create Canadian frameworks and systems to manage that. Let me highlight a few of those areas that we have been working on. At a national level, the Canadian government has come to realize that it really doesn't have any kind of national disaster recovery strategy. Here in the U.S., FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, organizes its work around a U.S. national disaster recovery framework. And I am thankful that now Canada has begun to work on creating such a strategy. I am curious what shape it will take and how long it will take government to create and implement that strategy. As MDS Canada, one of the most important frameworks that we have been working on in these last few years is getting clarity on the relationship between MDS Canada and MDS in the U.S. Whereas the Winnipeg office started off many years ago as an extension office that was mostly funneling volunteers to U.S. disaster responses, the increase in Canadian disasters has shifted our primary focus to responding within Canada first. A few years ago, a partner in mission agreement between our two staff teams brought needed clarity to how we will work together. And just yesterday, the Board of Delegates approved a partner in mission for the board's agreement that redefines how we will work together as two national boards to achieve our shared vision, mission, and values. We are excited about this redefining of what it means to be a binational organization. We believe it will continue to strengthen our partnership while providing a robust structure for growth. Our goal is that volunteers on the ground will never identify a project as Canadian or American. They will identify it as an MDS project. The shift from an extension office that focused lots of resources on sending volunteers south of the border to the dramatic increase in disasters in Canada has meant that we have been working hard to build our operational capacities for disasters in Canada. Something as basic as bringing equipment across the border is actually so complex, so time-consuming and expensive that we must acquire equipment within Canada to support our responses. The dramatic increase in Canadian volunteers on Canadian responses has meant increasing our staff. We now have 6 staff in our Winnipeg office. The increase has also prompted us to work together with U.S. staff to develop new volunteer scheduling software that can allow us to work binationally and seamlessly scheduling volunteers on any Canadian or U.S. national responses. As we grow, we are realizing more and more that many of the standardized policies and procedures that MDS has developed must be adapted to the Canadian context. Sometimes those changes are minor. Sometimes they result in very different procedures. In Canada, we don't have experienced partners to share casework with us. We have had to develop our own systems to do that casework management. Many jurisdictions in Canada are now requiring a Canadian builder's home warranty. We've been working on figuring out partnerships for those warranties with local builders and contractors. While we want to continue to build good, solid homes, as a disaster response agency, we're not eager to develop whole systems to maintain home warranties. In 2023, a major focus of our work was in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, where we worked to assist disaster survivors of Hurricane Fiona. We worked in communities where poverty has been present for generations. And as we did so with limited resources, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to you, MDS, here in the U.S., for a significant grant that assisted us in this underfunded response. This is but one more example of the ties that bind us together as one MDS. In this coming year, we expect to have more opportunity within Canada than we can manage. At the national level, we have identified our first response to 2023 fires in the Shuswap region of British Columbia, where we will start, and when I wrote this, it was 3 houses, now it's 4 houses, and that response may well develop into many more. We also plan on beginning our response in the town of Lytton, BC, where a fire destroyed 95% of that town way back in 2021, and they are only just this last fall issuing the very first building permits. Homeowners have been waiting 2.5 years to be allowed to rebuild there, and that response may also balloon into a much larger one. To the east, we have identified a potential response along the coastal region of Nova Scotia that suffered some fires last spring. We are still waiting a few details to be sorted out before we know if we have a couple of builds there, and our big challenge will be whether we have enough leadership. For summer projects, we'll be running a youth project in the Shuswap and a family project at Fraser Lake Camp in Ontario. On top of this, several of our units have undertaken or are considering undertaking several small projects. The potential response sites that we have lined up are in need of volunteers. And unfortunately, we have encountered a roadblock to having U.S. volunteers come into Canada. Ephesians 2, verse 14 says, "For he himself is our peace and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility." Last spring, we learned that the Government of Canada is now enforcing regulations that have actually been in place for a good while. We learned this when they didn't allow a U.S. volunteer to cross into Canada and help us, and that any volunteers that come in would need a full work permit. Well, this is like months of paperwork for every work permit you would try to create. This began a process where we're in dialogue with our government to figure out a way to recognize that MDS volunteers are not working in the way that takes away work from Canadians. This is actually a recognition that FEMA here in the US has given to Canadians for many, many years through an agreement worked out in the US, and now it's time for us to work that out with our government. We would value your prayers that this barrier would come down in order that one of our strongest partnerships, Canadian and US volunteers working together, could be strengthened here in Canada. As I reflect on our theme during these last days, it strikes me that changing that familiar call at the beginning of a race from ready, set, go to ready, set, grow invites us to always consider what growth means. I believe growth invites us to circle back and ask, given our growth, what does getting ready mean now? How can we get set for what may be coming next? It's a challenging question, a question that I like because it invites us to stretch our thinking muscles. It invites us to stretch our faith muscles. I pray that we will exercise those muscles in good measure as God directs our way. Amen.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. It's always a joy to participate with you in these events. And before I go any further with my comments, allow me to share my vote of thanks as well. Thank you also to the Annual Planning Committee. You worked so hard to plan these events, and a shout out to my executive assistant, Brian Pipkin, working with a local committee to make this possible. Thank you also goes to the hardworking board of directors and delegates. You give so much of your time and energy to pull off, with your diligence, meetings and numerous committee meetings of the board work. Thank you so much. And also a thanks and a shout out to our MDS staff who worked tirelessly to help leverage last year 7,200 volunteers to get ready, set, and go and grow. And a shout out to the many leadership volunteers tonight who may have wanted to come to this event but stayed back at the 17 plus national projects. So if you're listening out there, God bless you. Let's give them a hand as well. That's one of the downfalls of this time of the year, one of our busiest seasons. We have volunteers still remaining in the field, rebuilding hope. And continuing with tonight and tomorrow, we're going to have a continued exciting program. We also have tomorrow morning a special guest coming all the way from FEMA headquarters in Washington, D.C., Aaron Levy. You'll get to meet him tomorrow morning. He's the director of the Individual and Community Preparedness Division, and he traveled with me in a delegation last month in Louisiana, so we're excited to hear his viewpoint of MDS and our work in Louisiana. You will not want to miss his remarks in tomorrow's morning's program. And I'm also grateful to share this program with you tonight, Ross. I commend you for the leadership that you've provided to MDS Canada. I've seen the tremendous changes and growth you have made as executive director in MDS Canada in the last 8 years. It's been a pleasure and privilege to work with you. I know that your volunteers appreciate our warmer winters, and we appreciate your volunteers coming south to help us out. And so we understand that things have certainly gotten busier for you there in the north, and well, we hope and pray that the border does open up and issues get resolved so that our volunteers can reciprocate much of this goodwill in heading north. Our theme, Ready, Set, Grow, as was read, comes from Isaiah chapter 61, verses 3 and 4, as Jim mentioned earlier. Isaiah writes, "And provide those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty, instead of ashes, the oil of joy, instead of mourning, and a garment of praise, instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called trees of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. They will rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated. They will renew the ruined cities that have been devastated for generations." Isaiah 61. What stood out for me in this passage is God's provision for those who grieve, those who are covered in ashes, those who are drowning in their tears of despair. And what's the provision? A crown of beauty. A crown of beauty, oil of joy, garments of praise. Well, in MDS, this is manifested over and over again with the work of our volunteers. Listen to just a few of these accounts that display the hands and feet of Jesus. These are plantings of trees of righteousness. As you see from our program guide, we are still in numerous locations responding to disasters that happened several years ago. In August 2021, torrential rains fell in Hurley, Virginia. MDS has been there. I see you, David. David here is our program coordinator. MDS has been there in Hurley, Virginia, helping neighbors get back. Thanks to Frank Hoover and many other volunteers who travel that long route of 81 going south. Neighbors in the community wrote to us one time and said, Johnny and Marlene Shelton wrote, "Thank you for what seeds you have sown here in my hometown of Hurley, Virginia. Because of MDS, my neighbors affected by the horrific storms that morning have been putting their lives back together because MDS continues to build homes for so many. Trees of righteousness." Amber Scott is a mother of 3 children in Northport, Florida, along with her husband who's suffering from cancer. There they are when the hurricane came ashore and ruined their property. MDS volunteers, they stepped in and did a major makeover after Hurricane Ian caused such great damage. At her home dedication, she said, "Today we stand here before you with a change in my heart. And not only have you changed our hearts and lives, you have planted seeds in our hearts that will no doubt grow and change the course of our future." Trees of righteousness. Phil Helmuth, he's our project coordinator in Louisiana. He recounts the story from a disaster survivor in Iowa, Louisiana, where we built a new home for Wallace and Mary Charles. They were living in the remnants of this moldy, leaking house from Hurricane Laura, Delta, and 18 inches of rain. Upon completion of their new home, Phil stopped by for the final sign-off of the job card, and there Mr. Charles was on the front porch and remarked, and Phil, yes, he said, "I'd like to see your house again one more time," and remarked how clean your house is and spotless the interior. "Ah," said Mr. Charles, "I just love cleaning my house." How many of us would say that? I just love cleaning my new house. Trees of righteousness. Last May, a tornado touched down in the community of Laguna Heights along the coast of southern Texas. Project director Carl Dubé writes, "We heard the firsthand account of Mrs. Dora and her daughter during the night of the tornado. None of us could imagine what it would be like to wake up in the night, get out of bed to see what was happening, then feel and hear the loud, sudden noise and look up to see the lightning-filled sky where your roof used to be. Fortunately, Miss Dora now can see the results of the work on her house as walls and roof are being rebuilt and standing proudly in the place her prior home had stood." By the end of the week, the house was completely dried in and windows and doors in place and about half of the roof to shingles installed. Instead of walking through falling rain on broken glass, she walked through the newly framed walls and saw where lights, cabinets, and plumbing fixtures would eventually be installed. What joy! What joy! Oaks of righteousness. And so these provisions of beauty, joy, and praise nourish the soil for God's planting and growth. For what? We read in the end of verse Isaiah 61:3, for the display of his splendor. Or as the King James Version says, that God may be glorified. That God may be glorified. And so, it's been another busy year for MDS in the U.S. So in a few minutes, you will have the privilege to see a video recapping some of these year's events. So in the interest of time, I will not recount the stats. They're in your book. What is not mentioned in the video that you're about to see related to getting ready and set for growth is that last February, the MDS Delegate Board met and approved the new mission, vision, and core values statements. The three core values are the building blocks of how we conduct ourselves, and we are getting ready and set for growth. These three core values are faith in action, caring relationships, and working together. Faith in action. We believe and practice a life of service and proclamation founded on the Bible and modeled after the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. Caring relationships. We engage all disaster survivors and volunteers and partners with mutual respect, humility, and accountability. Working together. We intentionally work with one another inside MDS and with partner organizations. These three core values will impel and encourage us to continue with the work for tomorrow. Well, when these three core values come together, I believe the outcome can be boiled down to one word: hope. So I pray that MDS will always be in a state of readiness, set to respond and grow as the needs call for hope. Thank you. And now I would call our attention to the video produced by freelance videographer Paul Hunt. And this is going to be made available on the website. Please enjoy and be inspired.
Well, it was going that way, and then the wind turned, and then it just came right up here.
It was like a big giant monster taking out things in its path, and it came so fast and so hot.
The water started coming off the hill and coming into my basement. 30 minutes later, the water had risen like 10 feet to 15 feet straight up.
For 36 years I've been here. Every single item you own, gone.
And that really took a toll on the home and my spirit.
Groups like Mennonite Disaster Service comes in and makes such a difference in that recovery, in that healing, feeling like people can survive it.
It's that coming together as a community, as an organization called by God to do what we have done. And it's making a difference in people's lives.
My name is Ryan King, and I am the agricultural science teacher here at Lancaster Mennonite School in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
We're building wall segments for Mennonite Disaster Service that will be sent out to Maryland.
We're here in Dawson Springs, Kentucky, helping Mennonite Disaster Service.
Working on some tornado-damaged homes, and we brought our youth group down this year to help rebuild.
One of our core values at Bluffton is service, and so a lot of things that we do at Bluffton are all around opportunities to serve other people and to learn that way.
We're all working together for one goal: to fix the house up.
You are spreading the love of Jesus, but you're doing it through action.
I've never thought in my life I'd be helping somebody make a house for somebody to live in.
I'm really enjoying myself these last couple of days. Yeah, it just seems the week's flying by. Every day just flies by.
For sure, we were with friends.
Exactly.
God gave me these skills to use, and I just feel I need to use them and give Him the honor and the glory.
are you guys ready for this morning?
So excited, you have no idea.
Oh yeah, you have no idea how ready we are.
Take this opportunity because you never know who you're going to meet, whose life you're going to impact.
It's unreal that they're giving up their spring break to come down here. They'll remember this forever.
It is definitely a life-changing experience.
Meanwhile, we get visits by the homeowners, and that's just really special.
It makes your heart feel good. When you're going through something that's as hard as this, and then you come in contact with people that love God just like you do. Yeah, it's just been a blessing.
Oh, it's golden. So to have a volunteer group come in and say, we're self-sufficient, we're able to come and not only take care of ourselves, but also take care of you all and your residents, that's huge, because we couldn't do it without them.
So this morning we brought the walls down that we built at our school at Lancaster Mennonite.
And we're finally able to put them all together to be able to create the initial frame of the house that we're going to be building there.
It's just been wonderful how they've come together. There's just so many of them.
So almost for 2 years now, we've had such a wonderful partnership with ACTS and MDS and Homes That Help for Kentucky, serving our community and being able to do that alongside of wonderful volunteers.
If you feel like, oh, I could do that, if your heart jumps to it, first thing is just listening to God and say, God, I'm willing to go.
He's going to put me where I will serve his purposes best.
I believe just knowing that we're making a difference, be able to be the hands and feet of the one that we're following, the hands and feet of Jesus. He says, love me and love your neighbor. So this is being a neighbor for us.
There's just so many blessings from God just right here. So thank you to everyone.
It's been an amazing journey to watch people helping people. Over 47 homes over the course of these 9 years. I feel very honored and very appreciative watching that happen.
Now this is my time, and God has given me a beautiful home, something I never had before.
God's blessed me with all these people, so helpful. Not only supplying your needs, but to moral support, emotional support. It's so good.
MDS just makes it really easy to volunteer. That is one of the draws to coming here. And not only do you get to work with your hands and help improve the lives of people who have just gone through something really horrific, but also take time to grow in your faith and share in your faith and grow deeper as a group and with one another.
I love doing this job because I get to go out and meet people. And I get to help people that I couldn't help on my own.
Thank you all for being here, and what MDS has done is just tremendous. I mean, I couldn't ask for better workmanship, but I couldn't ask for better people. I met special people.
We've got extended family across the country.
We dedicate this home to love and understanding. May its joys and sorrows be shared, and may the love of Christ be exhibited to all who enter this home.
You guys are all awesome. We appreciate everything. I can't even really comprehend it, really. It's just so much, but we appreciate everything that everybody's doing for us. Never really had anybody help us out like this.
Those videos make it feel like my heart physically moves in my chest. So we watch our friends, the relationships that we've built. Paul, it's truly a gift that you share with us, and we thank you. We thank you for that. Your creative visual storytelling and the recapping of the work that we all do. You do such a great job gathering and producing the pictures and videos for MDS projects throughout the year. So again, let's give him another hand. Thank you. And all of you. Now, as we've been talking about all evening, that MDS is about relationships and partnerships. For many years, MDS has enjoyed a strong partnership with Everence, including the COVID-19 Congregational Relief Fund, where over $750,000 was raised and distributed to congregations facing hardships due to the COVID-19 epidemic. And we are grateful for their financial support of this year's annual celebration. Over the years, Everence has worked with many MDS donors while also providing corporate funding and grants for several MDS projects. Tonight, we are pleased to have with us Dennis Lefevre. He is a certified financial planner who serves as a financial consultant and Everence Foundation charitable advisor. Among his many roles, Dennis also works with families on estate planning and charitable giving plans. Let's please welcome Dennis.
Thank you, Michelle. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I don't want to recap all of the history, but a little bit might be in order. MDS was founded in 1950. Everence was founded in 1945, so we're almost like twins. We serve different people doing different things, but we have similar common goals. And we're pleased to be your partner in this mission and in this ministry. For those of you who don't know, Everence is the faith-based financial services organization serving over 30 denominations, many of whom are represented here tonight. And we do the following 5 things: asset management, insurance, financial planning, banking, and charitable gifting. And of those 5, MDS uses 4. You use Mennonite Retirement Trust for your employees, for their retirement savings. You're using the health insurance product, Everence Group Care, for your employee health needs. The My Neighbor Everence credit card, which instead of giving you points, allows you to direct 1.5% of what you spend back to charities, benefited MDS to the tune of $13,500 this past year. It's an amazing number. And you should be proud of all of the members who carry that card that think well enough of you to pass their dollars on to you. As Michelle had mentioned, Everence, MDS, and MCC partnered to provide support for the COVID-19 Congregational Relief Fund. My numbers suggested it was closer to $1 million in total that was provided by the 3 organizations coming together. So another example of how we've partnered with you. And if we look back in history at some of the charitable gifts that have come your way, over the past 10 years, so we're now looking at 2013 through 2023, just over $13 million came through Everence to MDS. Now, if we flip that around and look forward, which is a little risky because we just don't know exactly what the future holds, but if we look forward, we're aware of about $10 million that is coming your way. Now, there's a few little details there that need to be worked out, including how long those people live, how the market performs, minor little things. But the point is, the pipeline is looking nice, and a credit to you and to your organization and the mission and ministry that you're providing. We're delighted to be your partner, and in your program booklet, you'll note on pages 20 and 21 is a creative giving tools page that shows how it is that you could partner with us and with MDS going forward. And either Brad Fair or myself would be happy to have conversations with you about that. And so thank you to Kevin, to Michelle, to the organization for the partnerships we're presently enjoying, and we look forward to many, many years of future working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. We are blessed this week to be working with Fresno Pacific University. They are providing food service and other accommodations for us, and we are especially grateful to them that they are willing to bring, I might have to put my glasses on, that they're willing to bring some special music to us this evening. So joining me in welcoming the Fresno Pacific University Choir under the direction of Dr. Jeffrey Wilson.
Delight to be here with you this evening, and I understand that when you came into this particular room, a number of you noticed that this is a place that is a great place to sing. And I understand maybe you've done some of that already today. We're going to ask you to join us on our first and last songs. The first is Jesus Shall Reign. I think the words will be up here, so would you please stand?
Is
this next piece, Veni Veni Emmanuel, you may recognize it as a Christmas tune, O Come Emmanuel. We're singing it in Latin, original language, and I think you'll recognize the tune, and it's a very interesting arrangement. You may know the hymn, And Can It Be? This is a new tune written to that text.
And
invite you to stand and join us in singing Great is Thy Faithfulness.
Let's give the Fresno Pacific University Choir and Dr. Jeffrey Wilson another hand. we been inspired tonight? Amen. Wait till you see what we have in store for you tomorrow. I want to again take another moment to thank our annual celebration planning committee, the California unit, Brian Pipkin, Jim Holm, Shirley Holm. We just so appreciate you rolling out the red carpet for us here. Sunshine and all, thank you. Now, a few announcements. In the information table in the foyer, there are sign-up sheets for those of you who may need shuttles to the airport after tomorrow's festivities are concluded. So please make sure to sign up on those sheets, connect with Kathy Wiest, and make sure that we've got everybody going exactly where they need to go. If you're going on the tour tomorrow to General Grant, you'll need to make sure to bring a coat with you. So bring that in the morning because it might be cooler temperatures at those elevations. I want to just, again, thank you all for joining us here in person at Butler Church. And thank you to those of you who have joined us via live stream tonight. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Our program has been recorded and it will be posted on the website at mds.org in the next few days. So again, thank you for being part of our annual celebration and for all of your support and involvement with Mennonite Disaster Service. Please join us in the lobby for ice cream and fellowship. Good night, everyone.